You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS. That was Black Sabbath, The Wizard. And we had the Rolling Stones, Stray Cat Blues. And we started off with Geils, Whamma Jamma. And we're here with director John Anderson, who's got the new documentary out, The Paul Butterfield Story. And how are you?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You got a screening tonight at the Laemmle, North Hollywood.
That's right, and one tomorrow night at the Monica Film Center.
The Laemmle in Monica.
That's right, and it's playing through the 8th at the Laemmle in Pasadena.
And both at 7:30.
Yeah. Tonight we've got Jim Kweskin, who's in the film, who'll be part of the Q&A, along with Paul's ex-wife, Kathy.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to make this?
4 years plus.
That's all?
Yeah. Yeah, I've worked on others that took 10 or 12, but this one, just like that.
Yeah, yeah. So is that like, are you a documentarian? How'd you say the word?
Yeah, that's the word, for sure. I am. I've worked with Brian Wilson for 20 years and John Prine, and I've done a series of 3 Chicago blues films over the last 10 or 12 years.
Well, you did Smile, right?
Yeah.
With, how was that?
It was wonderful. You know, Brian is a beautiful man, and he came to life that week, and it's some of the most beautiful singing and playing you're ever going to hear.
Where was you? Was it at the Hollywood Bowl?
We did it at a soundstage in Burbank.
Ah.
With his band and rehearsed for a day, and then just did it one time through and no retakes. He was so on. It was beautiful.
Wow. Cool. So, was you a friend of Paul Butterfield?
No. I didn't see him for the first time until '69. I saw him at the Atlantic City Pop Festival, which was a couple of weeks before Woodstock, and I was hooked. You know, the guy's intensity. It was a rock concert with most of the bands that were at Woodstock. I was there to see Johnny Winter and Procol Harum and Santana and everybody else, and then this blues band showed up, and man, with the horns, it was more intense than any rock band I'd ever seen, and I thought, that's a guy I want to do a film about.
So that he was at Woodstock. I didn't even know that. What time was he on?
The act before Hendrix. Maybe 2 acts before Hendrix. That late.
You're kidding me?
No, the sun was coming up. He wasn't used in the film. You know, Grossman had a...
Okay, that's why I didn't know that.
Yeah, you know, he's come out in a director's cut since then, but to get footage, we had to go to, you know, other sources to find footage because it hadn't come out on the official release. And it was a highlight performance. It was when he had David Sanborn in the band and the 4-piece horn section, and it was... As Sanborn said, it was, as you saw in the film, it was like a hurricane being up there with him.
Yeah. So it's not on the record either then?
No.
Why do you think it got...
Well, Grossman didn't want his acts to be shown. He didn't want the band to be in the film either. You know, he was managing them at the time. I think he might have thought it was overexposure or the money wasn't good enough, but whatever it was.
He was the manager, right?
He was the manager of Paul and the band, you know, the band. And,
yeah.
You know, he put the kibosh on them appearing in the film.
That wasn't a good managerial move.
No, I would say that was a missed opportunity.
Oh, man. He's dead since then, right? He died?
Albert died about a year before Paul in '86.
Didn't he start doing restaurants?
Well, yeah. You know, that was part of the controversy was Albert spending too much money on his restaurants and not enough time on his acts? But, yeah, that became a bone of contention for many concerned.
You think, was he a good manager or was he like a dodgy character?
You know, Paul loved him to the end.
Yeah.
I'd never met him. You hear a wide array of things, but Paul wouldn't have been what he was without Grossman, let's face it. Paul Rothchild introduced them, and that was when his career was suddenly elevated. Suddenly he was in the big time having Albert in his camp.
With Elektra Records.
With Elektra, and Jack Holtzman is in the film, as you know, and
the boss at Elektra.
The boss. He took a chance on Paul. I
love that scene where he says he's flying a plane and he says, "I've got to do the record again."
Yeah, Jack is a pilot, and he's got the producer of the first Butterfield album, Paul Rothchild, in his private jet, and they're flying to Cape Cod. And Rothchild announces that, you know, the record is done, but it ain't as good as it can be. And Jack took the plane into a shallow dive, scaring the heck out of Paul, and said, "What? Tell me that again." And he asked for a second shot at it, and thank goodness he did, because the second time around was great.
So did the first one ever get released later?
Yeah, came out in, I guess, the 90s. It was called, I think, the Lost Elektra Butterfield Sessions.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really good. It just doesn't quite have the intensity. It just sounds, you know, almost like they're playing to a click track.
Sounds like a studio without the vibe.
It does.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite have the power of
It's
the one that
funny.
they put out.
It's funny because I played Jay Geils. Do you know Jay Geils?
Of course, and Peter Wolf inducted Paul into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Okay. So they were a great live band, but in the studio, nothing.
True.
You know, very weak.
Yeah, you go see him live and you think, I got to buy the records, and you buy them and you want to trade them back in.
Yeah.
That isn't the case with Paul. Paul's records were really good too, but there was nothing quite like seeing him live.
Yeah.
You know, he took the blues, forget that he added volume to it. He put just such a mean edge to it that you couldn't forget it.
Yeah. Well, he had the old distortion through the little amp that made the harp just sound like a bleeding alligator or something.
Or an airplane, yeah, and he had, as Michael Bloomfield as a wingman. That ain't too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, was he always a mess? Because it didn't seem like he had it together when he's in Woodstock. He's with the missus, he's got the kid, he's got the house. It didn't look like he was doing the naughty gear at that point. But then it kind of took a shift, right?
It slowly degenerated, yeah, in Woodstock. It had perhaps something to do with losing his contract with Elektra.
Yeah.
And, as Maria says in the film, the pot smoking they'd done, which had seemed rather harmless up to that point through the early 70s, turned into harder, more serious drugs, and the vibe changed.
Yeah, as it does.
Yeah.
As it does.
Yeah.
I know only too well.
And back to the origin of the film, I did want to make a mention of Sandra Warren, the producer of the film. She's really the reason the film got made. She was a fan of Butters in the mid-'60s at the Cafe A Go-Go as a teenager, went on to a successful law career, and it was her choice to make this film. And she found me to make it with her through Corky Siegel, the blues man in Chicago.
Yeah. Now, he started at an early age with all the other old-school blues dudes.
Yeah, he was 19 and Muddy was 40-something, and Gravenitis took him to a blues club on the west side, and Paul played a little harp, and they became lifelong friends, and Muddy mentored him.
Yeah. And he only was playing a little while prior to that on the harp, right?
That's right,
Bizarre.
He just took the thing. He was a guitarist,
Yeah.
an adequate guitarist. Wanted to learn harmonica, went out to this point on Lake Michigan, just on the south side of Chicago, called Promontory Point, and for 6 months sat out there and blew his brains out teaching himself the harmonica. Maybe that's why he learned it upside down. The high notes were on the left for him.
Yeah, that's a bizarre thing, right?
Imagine a piano being set up that way for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, was it because he was left-handed? It wasn't ever adequately analyzed, but I think it had something to do with he didn't know any other way, and that was just the way he taught himself.
He thought he was playing it the right way.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He did everything his own way, He just the way he electrified that instrument really changed the blues, and the black guys that inspired him were so grateful for it because he brought the rockers into the record-buying public in the blues.
Yeah. I'm sure he inspired Jay Giles. Is that why he gave him at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I think so. I've heard that Jay Giles was a big fan of Butterfield's, and I know that Butterfield really influenced Peter Wolf.
Yeah. Who was the harp player in Jay Giles? Dickie?
It was Magic Dick.
Who? Magic Dick?
Yeah.
What a name. Wish I would have come up with that one. I was thinking of calling myself Jet Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I just come up with that in bed the other night. Bit late.
Well, and Magic Dick was taken.
Yeah. But how great that would have been if I would have come up with that back when we started. It's Johnny Rotten, Sid Vicious, it's Jet Jones, and there's Paul Thomas Cook. I blew it, man.
It would have changed the world.
No one helped me. I was on my own. Let's play some Paul Butterfield. I can't get my mojo working. Is this a cover? Is this an older Muddy Waters song?
Yeah, but it was a cover when he did it. It was written by another guy. It's not a Muddy original.
Just a classic old thing.
Sam Lay takes the vocal on this one.
Yeah, okay. We're here with director John Anderson. Tonight's screening at the Lamley, North Hollywood at 7:30. You're going to be showing a documentary, the Paul Butterfield story. Horn of the Heart is called. And let's play it. Take it away. You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox, KLOS, with my guest director, John Anderson. He's got a documentary out, Horn of the Heart.
Horn from the Heart, yeah.
That's what I said. Did I say that really? See what you made me do, John? The Paul Butterfield story. And you got a screening tonight at the Lemley, North Hollywood at 7:30, followed by a Q&A with Kathy Butterfield. Is that his wife?
Yeah.
And you, and musician Jim.
Jim Kweskin.
Yeah.
Folky from the Jim Kweskin Jug Band.
Folky from Wisconsin. Tomorrow at the Lemley in Santa Monica. I guess it's in Santa Monica. It says Lemley Monica.
Yeah.
That's at 7:30. That's a Q&A with Paul's son, Lee Butterfield, and director, John Anderson. That was Bob Dylan, Highway 61. And then we had Paul Butterfield, I Gotta Get Me Mojo working.
Can I tell you a story about that penny whistle?
Go on in.
At the beginning of Highway 61 and throughout it, that belonged to Sam Lay, who was introduced to Bob by Paul, of course. Sam had it sitting next to his drum kit as he was playing that song. I think they ended up using a take, perhaps, that Sam didn't play on, and Bob picked it up and blew it and said, "We're using this."
Bizarre, right? You got to be careful what you have lying around. Can you imagine if Paul Cook had one of them lying around next to his drum kit? The drummer from the Sex Pistols? That'd be funny if that was all over the record. But I think I should have, I'd be good at that.
At the penny whistle?
Yeah, what is a bleeding penny whistle?
It's a long silver thing that the pitch seems to be related to how much air is blowing through it, very complicated.
Because it sounds like it kind of, like it has a decline at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think as the air pressure decreases, the pitch goes down.
Ah, interesting. So my question was, Bob Dylan, around the same time, Paul Butterfield, but you think that Paul Butterfield was the first kind of electric dude, and then all of a sudden Bob Dylan goes electric?
Let's look at the calendar, man. It was July 24th that Paul played that afternoon showcase at Newport, that electric thing that blew Maria Moldauer's mind, and as she said, blew all of our little folky minds. We couldn't believe the power that was being added to the music by Paul.
And he was there, Dylan?
He was at the festival. He wasn't there witnessing the show, but he got wind of what a hit Butterfield was. It was the sensation of the festival. He recruited Paul's band, rehearsed them overnight at George Wean's house. They learned 3 songs. He decides to go electric. He hadn't gone to Newport to play electric. He was going to play acoustic.
Yeah.
And the next day he comes out and plays electric, and he really did. He did change the world, but you could say he was following in Paul's footsteps.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
And that carries forward, and as much as Bob and his manager have said yes, yes, yes to everything we've ever asked for this film. They supplied everything that we wanted,
Have you ever asked Dylan that question?
No.
You're scared to ask him? Things might change?
I'm not afraid of Bob Dylan.
But you know what I mean?
Yes, I don't want to know the truth.
The truth? Jesus. What's that? So that's good. That's good. Did he ever play the Troubadour, Paul Butterfield?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone used to play there.
Yeah.
Right?
His big spot down here was the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach.
Yeah. I've played there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
George Nikas, the Greek guy?
Early, about 82, 83.
Uh-huh.
I've played there solo, and I played there with a band called Checkered Past. Yeah.
Imagine these Chicago boys, 66, seeing the sunshine, the beautiful girls, booked for a week. They were such a hit, they stayed for 2. It was paradise.
Yeah.
Elvin used to fish at the pier across the street from the place and bring it back to the club, and the owner, George Nikas, would cook it for him in the pizza oven.
Yeah. Yeah. It went on to be like a popular punk club, I believe, unless I'm getting completely confused. No, I remember that name, the Bear.
The Golden Bear?
No, it was a punk club, I'm sure it is. Ah, Jesus. What are we doing? We playing some more music? Or we chatting? Give us a story.
A story. Let's see. Well, The best one, to me, is just the way that Paul was taken in by the black guys in the blues in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, he had the guts to introduce himself to them, thanks to having a partner in crime, Nick Ravenitis. Many say that Paul and Nick were the models for the Blues Brothers. But as people got wind of this white kid who could really play harmonica, he was getting invited into the black clubs to play, and people were saying, hey, when's this white guy coming back? And then the black club started attracting white people, and it affected the economy of the blues scene in Chicago. It was a great thing, and it just kind of, once Albert Grossman was added to the equation, it really just took off.
Hence, like what you were talking about with the late, in San Francisco, what's his name? The promoter.
Bill Graham.
Bill Graham. They became friends, right, with Butterfield and the other guy.
Mm-hmm. And Bloomfield.
And then Butterfield kind of got them old boys back again in the scene.
That's right. Bloomfield was a big part of that, but they became friends with Graham and said, hey, you want to hear the real thing? Bring Muddy and Wolf and Little Walter and B.B. King, especially, to your clubs and watch what happens. These kids need a taste of the really authentic. And Bill took a chance, and the rest is history. It was not only great for the music fans of Northern California and eventually the world, but it meant bigger clubs for these blues guys, more money for them. And it was a way, as Fathers and Sons was in 1969, that big concert, it was a way for Paul and his buddies to give back to the guys that they felt they owed it all to.
Yeah. It's cool. We're going to play some music. What we got, Shovel? Shake Your Moneymaker. Who's doing it? Mr. Butterfield. Okay. Take it away, son. Jonesy's Jukebox, KLOS. With my guest director, John Anderson. That was Howlin' Wolf, Killing Floor, and then we had Paul Butterfield, Blues Band, Shake Your Moneymaker. Now that song, Shake Your Moneymaker, is that just like anyone can use that and you don't have to pay? It's like, you know, like when things are so old.
Yeah.
What do they call that?
Public domain?
Public domain.
I think so, yeah.
So whoever covers it gets the money for it.
Yeah.
When it's public domain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's no writer's royalties, you know.
So who actually did write that, Shake Your Moneymaker?
Oh, geez, you'd have to look at the record. An old blues guy.
Old blues dude.
Yeah.
Who probably didn't get a penny anyway.
Probably.
Who?
Okay, Elmore James. Well, they may have kept his catalog alive. Maybe he is getting some money for it, but
he's dead though, right?
He's dead.
Well, he ain't enjoying the money. When he give it to me, I'll show him how to enjoy it. I'll channel. So you got your show tonight at Lemley, North Hollywood, 7:30, followed by a Q&A with Kathy Butterfield and John Anderson. You're and musician
Jim Queskin.
Jimmy Quest.
And if people want to keep track of screenings around the country, they should follow us on the website, hornfromtheheart.com.
Yeah. Is this going to go like, are you showing it in cinemas, or is it kind of going to go to Netflix?
It's doing its theatrical run now. That's phase one. It's going to be in theaters all over the country through February or March. And then a Netflix sale or whatever, we haven't determined yet. But yes, then downloading and streaming and DVDs and Blu-rays will be probably early second quarter next year.
Yeah. Now he died, Paul Butterfield died in
87 at the age of 44, yeah.
And now, how long ago is that, 87 till now?
That'd be 31 years.
31 years. Did any of his records get re-erected and made some money or not?
They've been remastered and reissued. I don't think they've been big sellers, no. We've been getting great crowds to the film, and I like to think that might ignite some flames of commerciality for him. But, he wasn't a commercial guy. He didn't care about stardom. He didn't do interviews. There's very little archival footage of his performances. We got lucky because Sam Lay has a load of 8mm films under his bed, okay?
Yeah.
That he shot in the 60s, color 8mm film that he let us use. But without that, there would be gaps in the story for sure, because cameras weren't on him that much.
Yeah. Did he write songs?
Yeah, he was a writer. It developed more later in life. But yeah, he wrote a lot of the material with his later band, Better Days.
Was that the psychedelic period?
Well, even back then he was writing stuff, back in the second album. But as it went on, he was writing more and more. Very soulful stuff.
What was that song at the very end where he's on the piano?
Done a Lot of Wrong Things.
Yeah, is that one of his songs?
No, but you'd think so, the way he sings it. It fits him like a glove, doesn't it? It's sad, but it's beautiful the way that he's overcoming the shortcomings in his voice. You know, he's
Yeah.
still making it come through.
Yeah.
It's tough to watch for everybody, but it says a lot.
Now, he did get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right?
Like Sanborn says, if he had just hung on, the zeitgeist, the commercial zeitgeist wasn't right while he was alive, but if he just waited for a couple of more revolutions of the earth, he could have seen himself get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Imagine what that might have done. I wish we had the knowledge of drug abuse then that we have now, of course.
Yeah. But I don't think the timing has anything to do with it. When you're done, you know. And he just never got to that point where he was done getting high, I think. You know, because that's when I first started going.
In rehab?
Yeah. Just...
When you met him?
It was not in a... No, it was at... I can't really talk about it on because it's supposed to be anonymous, but... not in rehabs, but at these places that I go. That's where I met him. Mm-hmm. It wasn't in a place. But yeah, I mean, I think rehabs were a lot better then. Now they're like bleeding luxury comedy places, you know, where no one gets sober because everyone's too nice to each other. You got to go through it. You got to, you know, I'm from that old school of like, shut up, sit down, do this, blah, blah, blah. And I needed that kind of thing, you know. Now it's not, you know, you pay like 50 grand a week, or the parents pay 50 grand a week, and getting massages and eating this, that, and the other. I don't know how anyone gets sober doing it that way, you know. That's my little gripe. What do I know? Thanks for coming by, buddy.
Thank you, Steve.
It was a pleasure. Good luck with your movie. Horn of the Heart, the Paul Butterfield story. And if other than tomorrow and the next day, you read it out. I'm tired of bleeding reading it.
Well, tonight's the big night in NoHo. Tonight it's going to be at the Lemley NoHo with Jim Kweskin and Paul's former wife, Kathy Butterfield, with the Q&A with me. And then tomorrow night at the Lemley, Monica at 7:30. I'll do a Q&A then with Lee Butterfield, who is Paul's son. And as I say, it's playing at the Lemley, Pasadena through the 8th. So it's been there for a week. And it's all over the country. If you go to hornfromtheheart.com, you'll see where it is.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming by, buddy. We're going to visit the Duke, and we'll be back with some more rock and roll. Thanks.